Welcome everybody to Furry Musicians from Hobby to Career. My name is CK9C and I am joined by these amazing musicians. I'll let each one of them introduce themselves, starting with the one on my left.
Hello there, I am Rhythm Bastard, a hardcore, nerdcore, punk rock himbo who is sometimes a raccoon man.
Hell yeah.
All right. I am Sky, who performs under Aviators. I've been performing on mostly YouTube for a long time now, just writing songs, mostly what would now be considered nerdcore. Songs about video games, songs about, various characters, original characters, furry characters, whatever inspires me at the moment, usually hovering around rock and alternative, that kind of stuff.
Hi, my name is Whispers. I make music as a VR foxboy, inspired by love and relationships that happen in virtual reality. Some weird ass shit, but it's real. That's me.
Nice.
Hell yes, and I am a nerdcore musician. I specialize in horror style music, specifically stuff like Five Nights at Freddy's. And I'm excited to put this panel on. We're gonna start from beginner stuff, from like choosing your doll, all the way through intermediate and advanced stuff for everybody, whether you are a music producer, a musician, an aspiring, or you're a seasoned career musician. So to start off, we got little videos from each of the musicians so you can get to know their work. Hell yeah, everybody give it to the Rhythm Bastard.
Woo! Again, I am playing tonight, panels 2 at 8 p.m. It's under hardcore, nerdcore, punk rock on the shed and everything.
Hell yes,
Don't miss it.
Yeah.
Don't come for the punk rock, stay for the magic cards and nudity.
Next up, we got Whispers.
Whispers gibt Konzerte vor tausenden Fans, aber keiner steht vor seiner Bühne, weil die Bühne ist in seinem Wohnzimmer.
Yeah, Whispers! Gosh, I love your music so much. Always stuck in my head, Whispers.
Yeah, no kidding.
Next up, we got Aviators.
Are you ready for the thunder? Are you ready for the finish? Look into the floor. I will leave you on the road so you won't forget. No one else to save you. Just the keepers of the fleeting sun. When the sky was fell, we descended into hell to keep them calm. For life, for the cold nights chill, be the
Spooky. Thank you. So now that you got to know a little bit about our panelists here, we're going to start off with the first question that every music producer asks. What's a DAW? And how do I pick one? All right, who here knows what a DAW is? And who doesn't know what a DAW is? So a DAW, short for Digital Audio Workstation, this is what we musicians make music in. They come in all shapes and sizes on all different platforms and at all different price levels. You can make stuff from your laptop, your desktop, or if you don't have a computer, from even your phone. I got started on my phone. I was making music with like GarageBand, and that top right one there, that's a Machine from Native Instruments. Love that one. And each of our panelists are going to tell us what they use nowadays. So, aviators?
All right, I started using FL Studio in 2011 after kind of using GarageBand sort of just to figure out that it was possible to make music on a computer. And I found that to be a sort of more playground style program where it's more focused on experimentation and just trying to fragment different pieces of sound here and there, trying to loop different pieces of music here and there. And that focus on experimentation with that software package led me to stick to it with it until today. So for the past 12 years, I've been using FL Studio and have no plans to use anything else.
Hell yes. And what about you, Rhythm?
I use Reaper ever since I got involved with the Rock Band Network. I originally used Studio One, but what I like about Reaper is that you can use different VSTs to sort of get different instrumentations, like for example drums or orchestral parts, that kind of thing. And it's very like clear, and I especially love using it for like vocal editing.
Of course, that's solid. That's a solid choice. And you, Whispers?
First of all, I'm fascinated by this mic. Look at this, it's completely squished.
And it still works.
It's legendary.
Someone chewed on it.
So I also use Reaper, funny enough. I stuck with it because I did a lot of 3D audio work, and Reaper just works. Like, I work at a radio station, so I'm forced to use Pro Tools because it's industry standard, but of all of the doors I went through, I'm doing Reaper now.
Hell yeah. And currently I use Logic. I've been producing on Logic for, I'd say 13 years. It's crazy to think about. And each of these costs different amounts. I think Logic is like 180. FL Studio is at a couple hundred?
Two, yeah.
Yeah. Things like Pro Tools you can rent monthly. Pro Tools is very standard if you're wanting to get like deeper into the industry side. Every recording studio that's a major one uses Pro Tools. But if you have an iPhone, you have GarageBand already. It's free. All you gotta do is download it. Same with if you have a Mac, it's absolutely free. And Logic and GarageBand, they're like the same program. And they're only available on Mac, whereas all these others are available on PC. A lot of DJs like to use Ableton. I know a good number of my friends use Ableton. And if you're brand new to DAWs and you're like, okay, this thing looks a little daunting, how the hell do I work this? I do music production live streams where I teach, as well as like show people the writing process and everything that goes with it. I know you do too as well, Aviators.
Yes, yeah, so I'll stream the process so that people can kind of tune in. I usually do it every Thursday. And people can watch what I'm working on right now, whether that's the editing vocals phase or sometimes I'm trying to write something new and I'm just experimenting and putting notes down until they sound good. Sometimes I'm recording something. I like to show off different phases of the process because everybody has their different process and everybody has to find their own. And choosing your DAW ends up being very little difference from choosing your favorite word processor. The content that you're putting into it to get out of it is not determined by the software you're picking. It's just going to be an easier learning experience one way or another.
Thank you very much. So yes, by the way, this panel is organized in 3 different parts. We're going to start off this first like half hour or so as a presentation where we all just kind of go over these topics. Second half hour is a Q&A where you can source your questions to any of us. And the third half hour, if we're on time, we usually try to be, is a meet and greet, so you can meet your fellow music producers and musicians and start networking, because that's always a big part of becoming a hobby to a career musician. You got to network. All right, so gear. Also, sometimes labeled as the GAS syndrome, the gear acquisition syndrome. Wanting gear is, I think, innately part of the music writing process, because you kind of see all these other musicians who are like in these huge studios, or even if they're a bedroom studio and they got all this gear. But we want to also tell you that you don't need a ton of gear to make amazing music. I think we all had pretty humble beginnings. All of us at different levels. I started with a laptop in my dorm room and like a tiny little mixer that I could plug a microphone into, and kept it simple like that, as well as just my phone. And then of course, your headphones, you gotta keep them nice and cheap, but at the same time, pretty good sounding. What do y'all use for your headphones, Whispers?
I actually still use my very first pair of headphones. They were Audio-Technica, like the black ones.
The M50X?
Yes. With the silver ring, like honestly, they don't break.
Those are great.
Those
Use
are
those for
solid.
8 years. Yeah.
Yes.
I use Sennheiser 660 now. Yeah, so those are really, really good as well. Sennheisers are just they don't make anything sound great. They just make it sound like raw. So you're going to be able to hear whatever problems are in there. That's what I like in headphones. I also find though that before I release a song, I need to hear it on speakers. I find that headphones can't catch everything personally.
Yeah, definitely. What do you use for your headphones?
I think I used the Audio-Technica M20. It was like something, it was toward the bottom of the line, but like it's still good enough. It's got, it covers my ears entirely, and it has like enough bass so I can kind of pick up a little bit on everything.
Definitely. The Audio-Technica M series is a really nice pair of headphones. They're not too expensive. They usually range from like $50 to $150, depending on which ones you get. The M50Xs, you can find them in every studio.
Yeah.
They are, people hail them as like a nice flat frequency, and when you're a music producer, you want that flat response. So you hear your music without it being colored. Just like as a good artist who's doing graphic design wants a good color screen that's not like making the reds pop too much or the blues. It's the same with music. We don't want our highs or our lows to be popped too much. We want to hear what we're making as it's supposed to be. And your microphones. There are a number of cheap microphones out there that you can get started with. The Blue Yeti, the Blue Series are a great one. The Audio-Technica 2020, super solid, not very expensive, and it comes with a USB version as well. So if you don't have a mixer, plug that bad boy in. What's your microphone choice these days?
I use a Shure SM7B, which is used on probably a lot of albums you've heard before.
Everything.
It's used on everything. It's used in broadcasting, and the reason I use that is because it is good for everything. I can reliably expect a flat, standard sound that's not going to need a lot of tweaking one way or another to sound like real life. And that's not a very expensive microphone either. That's kind of a basic microphone that doesn't need it doesn't need a preamp. It doesn't need extra power. It doesn't need fancy equipment to plug it into something and make it sound. So I've been very impressed over the years with that microphone.
Yeah, that microphone's only about $100.
Yeah.
It is a legendary. It's been in studios for decades and still kicking. What's your microphone these days, Rhythm?
I used to use the USB Rock Band microphone. Just plug it in, and I put it in front of my amp when I want to record guitar. No, but the microphone I use these days, it's a condenser mic. I can't tell you for the life of me the brand name of it, because like my friend was just giving away his equipment. He's like, here, you can have my old condenser mic and use it as a boom mic and everything. So, I mean, I do everything on that, and as long as you got like the interface, then plug with an XLR. So I should probably look that up now, actually.
Hey, it sounds great, and your music sounds good.
Thank
So,
you.
Sometimes the brand doesn't matter as long as you're making good music.
Yeah. And stuff you find at a garage sale is sometimes the best. It doesn't have to be brand new from a store.
Microphones can last a long time, as you see with this one right here.
Yes. Sounds good.
Indestructible.
What about you, Whispers? What's your microphone choice these days?
Looks
It
like
got run over by a car?
Okay.
It still works.
So this is another Shure microphone. This is
Yeah.
an advertisement for Shure
Get
microphones.
this. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, no, I've been recording and mixing most of my stuff at a studio that I share with my friends. Like we're building a whole like music vibe space. and I work with Neumann microphones. I have Neumann a TLM 103 that
I
I've
love
been
that
using
mic.
like forever. Yeah, it's a bit bright for me because, so I mean, you can buy mics for certain instruments, and you can also like buy the wrong mic for certain voices. I have a very like bright voice, and I feel like with that mic, it's too bright in general sometimes.
Yes,
So yeah.
right. Yeah, there's no one right choice.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, of course, like we talked about earlier, you can use a computer or a phone to produce music on. You can do both. You can start your project on your phone sometimes and bring it over to your computer. I do that when I'm on the road.
Yeah.
Inspiration, a fun question. All right. Each of these musicians comes from a different background, and each one's inspired by different things. Us being nerdcore musicians, me and aviators, I know we're inspired by the entertainment mediums.
Absolutely.
Tell me about your inspiration these days.
Okay, so right now I am very passionately writing a song about Baldur's Gate 3. That's my obsession at the moment. So I write songs about the things that I'm having fun with at the moment. I used to write a lot of music about Five Nights at Freddy's when I was really into those
Shout
games.
out.
Yes, that was a fun time in the YouTube music scene. And I started writing about Bloodborne for a while, another one of my favorite games. More recently, Elden Ring, sort of in that vein. Beastars, Berserk. Been enjoying sort of delving into the greater fantasy genre for an inspiration. Whatever I'm watching at the moment.
Hell yeah. I do the same. I watch movies, I play video games, TV shows, and I will just be so inspired by these different mediums and the stories and the sounds that they're portraying. But a lot of the artists, I think almost every artist, if not, comes to that question, how do I stay inspired? What do I do if I'm not feeling inspired? And I want to ask our other panelists, what do you do when you're not feeling inspired, River?
I mean, usually it just starts with some big experimentation, or sometimes working on it. I mean, working on a cover helps for one, because you just pick a song at random and it's like, oh, you know, like I kind of like the effect they used on this guitar or this riff. Maybe I can try to replicate it on my song. Or sometimes you just like kind of dedicate yourself to 30 minutes. Like I do work streams on Twitch sometimes. And who here is familiar with the artist Louis Huerta? He goes by Gambit Feathers on pretty much all social media. So like one time he did this design, you know, like experiment for a fighting game, like called Fangs of Fury, and it's just like werewolf fighting game. And I just kind of took one for each of these characters. I'm gonna dedicate like 30 minutes to just writing like a theme for each of these characters if I were to make a fighting game. And by just kind of reanalyzing this and repackaging to my own background, that helps me kind of put something out that is either A, on a time crunch, and B, is something that I might not have considered otherwise.
Right.
I love that. Sometimes putting yourself under that pressure can really help you make the diamonds.
The Pomodoro method, as it's called.
Hell yeah. And what about you, Whispers? What do you do when you're down on inspiration?
I give up.
Based.
Okay.
Honestly, yeah. Sometimes it just doesn't work, and there's no point in pushing. Like I feel like, you know, if I really am not inspired, if I sit down, I have my piece of paper, my pen, and I write lyrics, and they are ass, and I'm like, okay, this is ass, and I stop. On the other hand, I do have like a massive document on my phone, and whenever I see random things in my everyday life, you know, be it words, be it, I don't know, people, whatever situations, you just note that down. You just be like, hold on, give me a second. You write it down, because then you always have a list for inspiration that you can always come back to.
Very good idea.
I love that. I love that. Who out there has suffered from that inspiration loss when writing? All right, so you feel it. You feel it. Hey, sometimes these conventions are the greatest time to rekindle that inspiration, whether it's being around your friends and seeing all these amazing suits, going to panels and just experiencing something that you've never done before. Put yourself out of your comfort zone sometimes, and it can make some really great artistic results. So, the big question, look at Whispers up there, he's so handsome. How do you know when a song is finished? We're gonna start with you, Whispers. How do you know?
When I've mixed it, then I listen to it on my headphones, it's okay. I listen to it in the shower, it's okay. I listen to it on the shittiest GBL Bluetooth speakers I can find, and it's good. In the car, if I listen to I mean, I come from a production, like mixing side, so my process is done when the mix is good. But yeah, check it everywhere. Play it for other people while you are in the room. I feel like that's always puts yourself in a different spot of, it's like a show, you're showing your work and then you suddenly hear things that you didn't hear before.
Right. And resting your ears.
Oh god, yeah.
Is a big one. Yeah. Your ears will stop hearing things correctly.
Yeah.
Like your ears can get tired and will straight up put things out of tune to you that aren't actually out of tune. Like it is a mess if you listen to something just over and over and over again. Yeah.
What about you, aviators? How do you know when your song is finished?
So I'm sort of on the opposite end where it's like mixing and mastering. If I never had to, I never would, because I just like coming up with the ideas, and I like hitting that sort of sound where you put two instruments together and you just get that chord right, and then suddenly that chorus is just it washes you away instead of just sounding mediocre. So that's the moment I look for when I've kind of hit. This song goes from being just a collection of notes to a feeling. It has an experience. And then when on top of that, I've maintained that feeling through the song, an experience that I think will cause people to feel what I'm feeling with this sound, then I will go through the technical process of, spending 10 hours just listening over and over and turning things down, turning things up, EQing things, taking something out completely because it's not actually, necessary. Basically, when I can't do any of that anymore and keep my sanity intact, that's when my song is done.
I love that. That's pretty solid. And Rhythm, how do you know when your songs are done?
So there's two major tests that let me know when a song is done. It's like, okay, I mix it, it sounds fine in the mix. So, all right, my last three steps are: one, I set it make sure that it doesn't peak above -6 before I add my ozone mastering tool. Then I give it the parent test, which is I bring my parents in because they're not musically trained and they have no frame of reference for the stuff I'm referencing a lot of the time. So if it passes muster with them, then I know okay, there's some kind of broad appeal here. And then of course, as we've all mentioned before, the car test.
Yes.
Because that and earbuds are the two most common places that people hear music these days.
Yes.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, that's a solid answer. Who out there is a music producer or a music writer?
All right.
Not a lot.
And who out there is an instrumentalist? And who's a vocalist? Hell yeah.
I don't know. Some of each.
Yeah. Definitely, each of those processes require different steps in writing, and you got to ask yourself the different points as along the way, whether you're writing, arranging, or mixing. Each one has their own endpoints that then lead into the other, and so there's no real right or wrong answers for knowing when your stuff is done. But these are all expert tips. Yeah, whether it's showing it to your friends or your family, mixing it in your car and your earbuds, making sure they sound good. Because remember, a lot of your listeners are going to listen with AirPods. That's the most popular headphone in the world right now. So
And phone speakers, just the speakers on your phone.
Yeah, there is an entire Google Drive folder on my phone that is just car test for hey, I'm going to take it everywhere with me.
I do the same.
Yeah.
All right. So a lot of musicians, when they're first getting started, or they're hitting a brick wall, they're okay, I'm putting out music. How do I get views? How am I starting to get people to pay attention to my work? One of my biggest tips is always collaboration. This is sharing your audience with someone else out there, and they're sharing theirs with yours. And it doesn't matter how big a following or how small they have, it's vice versa. It's about the style that they have and the music that they're making. Does it inspire you, and does your work inspire them? And it can be a little bit daunting reaching out to someone new that you've never talked to before and you want to collab with. So we're going to start off with this first point. How do you send a collab email? My friend Chi Chi came up with this point, and it's such a good explaining point because I get emails a lot that have just the title, do you want to collab? And the whole email is, hey, I'm a singer. Can I be on your next song? Thanks. Ooh. Okay, well, who are you? Show me your work. So when you reach out to someone, tell them who you are. Approach them with a bit of an idea first, because that makes things a lot more easy to digest if you're just going through your emails as an artist. Show them a bit of your portfolio so they know your sound, and come at them with something that they can fully read and listen to and be like, oh, okay, I like this person. I want to work with them. Don't just be like, hey, do you want to work together?
It's like, I don't know.
And then, of course, one of the easiest ways to get started on collaborating is collaborate with your friends. It's a little bit less daunting than sending out these cold calls and these emails to people that you don't know. So reaching out to your friends who you know make music or are trying to is a great way of starting to share your audiences, and it expands your styles. How many of y'all have done collaborations? Hell yeah. And our panelists, have y'all done collaborations?
Yes.
Yeah, a couple.
I think we all know. Yeah.
Hell yeah. I know you just put out 17 hours, right?
Yes.
So good, so good. How did you get started on that collab?
There were two other people involved. One of them is called Furry, an Irish producer. The other person is a South Korean producer called Fox. And I don't know, I think we met in VR chat, like it happens. And this was a new kind of collaboration for me, because usually I'm the one engaging and making the music and like giving other people a part. But this time it was the other way around, which was really nice. They sent me the instrumental and they said, well, yeah, can you write, you have this timestamp to this timestamp, you can write about, the topic that the song's about, send me the files, I'll do the editing, everything. And that was beautiful. I love that.
Oh, I love that. That's a nice
that is
process.
great.
Yeah.
Making it an easy decision is a good way to get a yes.
Yes.
Yes. And just like Whispers was touching on, if you don't know any musicians and you just want to start making musician friends to start collaborating with, be inspired by, VR chat. That's how I met some of these amazing musicians. Just hang around in VR chat. I just play some piano, start singing, and they kind of make their way over to you eventually. Or you make your way over to them. Tell me about your latest collaboration.
Oh boy. So this is actually, I think, on the longest period I've ever been without a collaboration. The last collaboration I did was, I believe, it was either a collaboration I did with an artist, a great singer named Synth Fox. You can find her on Twitter and YouTube as well, who's just recently started making music again after a little bit of a hiatus. She's a great vocalist that I just sort of became friends with after she, over the years, started asking me questions about how I produce music. And, sort of following the stuff I would do, and eventually we just became sort of peers learning off each other how to do new things. The other recent one I did was with Miracle of Sound, who is another nerdcore artist. And that one was kind of a weird one where we both had separate people telling each other that we should be doing music together. So you do really never know when you're going to have this situation where somebody's been told that they would pair well with your sound. You've been told that you would pair well with somebody's sound. Sometimes these opportunities come out of nowhere. And in that case, Miracle of Sound is an artist that I love so much that I never would have considered sending him an email asking for a collab. So it just happened the other way around to my luck.
I love that. That's awesome. I love Miracle of Sound. One of my favorite artists.
Oh yeah. Oh, fantastic music. Look that one up.
And what about you? What was your latest collaboration like?
I think my latest collab was with an NBA email partner, and we still just chat frequently. So it's just like, oh my god, we should cover this song. Oh my god, we should cover this song. So it's like this shared passion for music. And I think the most recent collab was The Only Exception by Paramore. So it was like one of the ones where we really like working together on a cover of the Orion Experience called The Dionysus. Mm. So it's like that kind of thing where we just have like this shared appreciation for the song, and it's like, hey, want to just work something on it? But as far as like other proper collabs with other musicians, I'm part of Game Grooves, which regularly does video game cover albums. I think their most recent project was an emo tribute to the Majora's Mask series, Majora's Mask, and it's just the kind of environment where like all these people are in the same place on the same project, so there's a lot of cross-pollination. Like, well, wait a second, I'm not so good at the bass. Could you maybe like write an interesting bass part for me to interpret this in your own way? So there's that environment where people are just encouraged to bounce off of each other and work together.
Yeah, I love that. And my latest collaboration, I was sitting around in VR chat playing some music. I was actually playing Welcome to the Black Parade. And I always sit on my piano and play. And I got to like the guitar part, and I was like, damn, I wish there was a guitarist who could play this part. Out of the crowd comes this Australian dog, and he's like, oh, I can do it. I was like, all right, let's see what you got. And he just shredded, and I was like, oh, I like this. What's your name? He goes, oh, when snakes sing. That's my attempt at an Australian accent. And,
It was pretty wacky.
thank you. Wackadoo. And I ended up making good friends with him, and I loved his style. He was showing me his music. He was getting like a few hundred views per song he was putting out, but he put everything into each song. Like, he broke bones making his music videos. He would crash cars and stuff. He's crazy, super talented, but not very known. And so I was like, yo, let's do a project together. He's like, well, you got this audience and stuff. I was like, no, it doesn't matter. I want to make a project with you. You've got a completely different style that I really want to like utilize and expand each other's repertoire. And so we wrote a song together through Discord. By the way, that's how you collaborate with all these musicians across the world. Discord calls. It is the easiest way. And we wrote a song called I Bite Back that is now just about 250,000 views a couple months later, which is crazy. And he started now to like get tens of thousands of listeners per month. And he's just really taken off now in Australia. In fact, he's playing a convention this weekend down there. He wanted to be up here, but we got you when snakes sing. But yeah, that was some of the most fun I've had recently, and it took a few months, but oh my gosh, collaborating is one of my favorite things to do as a musician. And it under the umbrella of getting heard. So you finished your song, maybe it's a collab. Now what do you do with it? Well, you're gonna start off with distribution. We're gonna get into the intermediate stuff here now. So distribution, how do you get your songs on like Spotify, Apple Music, other stores like that? Well, I personally use a platform called DistroKid, as well as CD Baby. I know we've got a couple other distro kids up here. You two are distro?
I'm TuneCore personally.
Oh, TuneCore.
TuneCore is the same thing basically. It's just they have a subscription model instead of taking a percentage of your profit.
Yeah. Each of these distributors, whether it's DistroKid, TuneCore, CD Baby, there's a lot more out there. They all have different deals that they can do with you, whether it's a subscription model, a percentage that they'll take off of your royalties. They will get your music up into the different platforms and make sure that you are getting paid with every stream that people do. So once you found your distributor, then you find your PRO, and that's your performance rights organization. A lot of starting musicians miss this one. There are a couple here in the United States and internationally. I personally use one called BMI. Do y'all use BMI?
Yeah, BMI for me as well. Yeah, registered through my distributor.
Now, what about you, Whispers? You're international, so what's that? What's your PRO?
That's the thing. Like, we have one. It's called AKM. That's like the Austrian equivalent. We don't really have a choice, but it is important, especially when you're trying to get radio play or like earn royalties from that. You need to be registered.
Yeah. It doesn't cost anything, and they don't really take a percentage, but they're going to make sure that you get paid beyond what your distribution company is going to do. So if your stuff is played on the radio or in a supermarket or at a concert, they're going to make sure that you get paid. And it's just a good way to make sure that you're maximizing your revenue. What's your PRO?
I don't think I have one. I think I was registered for ASCPA like a while ago.
ASCAP.
Yeah. Yes, but I do need to like look into that and re-register. So
Yeah, definitely. BMI or ASCAP are the great ones here in the States.
yeah, BMI.
There's other ones for like if you're a composer, there's CSAC, but BMI and ASCAP are going to be your important ones. So make sure that you sign up with one. It is free, and they're going to make you some money. So marketing. I don't like to pay for marketing. I've tried it with like Instagram ads. No, it just doesn't really work for me. Have y'all tried marketing?
I don't think I believe in traditional marketing for music. I don't think it works. Like you said, you can't just show someone a snippet of a song in an advertisement and then consider that they're going to go buy the album en masse. It just doesn't happen.
Unless you're with a major record label who's going to give you like $1 million for the advertising and like push your stuff hard.
And have a video with it, a music video or something. Yeah.
And secure some kind of like other opportunities.
Yeah.
Branding links. Yeah.
Yeah. Us as indie artists don't really pay for your marketing. There is a better way, and that is starting right here in this room, this a furry community. Each of us are in different communities. Being that we're all here at a furry convention, we are all pretty obviously in the furry community. When you are marketing your stuff towards a community, and it's good, often that community is going to take your song and spread it to other members of the community. Like, yo, have you heard this new song by this artist? And then they like it, and then they share it with all their friends, and that's how you can really start getting some traction on your plays. We're also in the nerdcore community, and that's definitely helped take my career off once I started going into like Five Nights at Freddy's, which led me deeper into the horror stuff. And I all discovered that because I listened to Brony music on accident, and I was like, yo, this is kind of sad. This getting millions of plays? You can make Brony music? Whoa, all right, let me check this out. Oh, there's Five Nights. What's the Living Tombstone?
Yeah.
Oh, he's rocking it. And so that's how I found my communities, and they continue to spread. Every community has subgenres, and all you gotta do is really write stuff that your community is going to love. And if they do, chances are you're gonna get some plays on that. What quickly would you be like your top communities that are getting you the most plays lately, aviators?
Well, I have always been very grateful to the furry community for accepting me as one of them, and whether I, chose to be or not, I was kind of born that way. But I have always appreciated the fact that furries they're a multi-property fandom because they're into the creation of things, not just one specific story.
Yes.
They're not a fan of one thing that has furry characters. They're not a fan of a book. They're a fan of all music, art, games, whatever that may involve anthropomorphic characters. And I found that there's so much opportunity for creativity in this community and appreciation for that creativity. The only problem from there is the exposure that people have to furry music, because I think it's maybe not as big as it was in, as you said, the Brony community, which was where I first started performing.
But it's growing.
And it is growing as well. And personally, I think online, the anime community has been huge and loves to hear music about any kind of anime, especially one that a lot of people are watching right now. Beastars being mine, and Berserk, my two sort of favorites I write about quite often. And yeah, those are sort of my two latest ones.
Hell yeah. Whispers, do you have a community that you tend to write for?
It's definitely the VR community, because I think a lot of my lyrics reflect realities that a lot of them through live when they form friendships, when they form relationships in virtual reality. I started off in the Otter avatar community. So like, how many people are in VR chat? Kind of interested? Raise your hands. Okay. Good to know. So very often you have communities around a specific avatar. And I started off with the Otter, like the Otter avatar. And we used to do meetups every Saturday, and I'd get out my acoustic guitar and play like through the Quest mic, the shitty sound, awful, fucking, I don't know. But it was great, it was fun, and it developed from there. And it's cool to see that that I get to hear from other people, that they listen to the songs and have similar experiences, be it heartbreak, be it, I don't know, finding love. It's beautiful.
Yeah, your song Phantom Sense, that's totally VR, and god dang is it catchy. I love it.
Thanks.
Rhythm, what's your favorite community to write for?
I mean, I guess, other than the furry community, I do have a lot of cross-pollination with like the VGM community, because there are a lot of things that video game music does that you can apply to like a traditional rock song is otherwise. And what I came upon was like the best video game music and the best wrestling music have kind of similar construction that can help you write another song. And it comes down to like the hook, the riff, and the ride. So John Cena's theme, we're all familiar with it, right? So the hook would be the descending trumpets, like that. That part that lets you know, that announces the wrestler coming down, the one that directs their attention toward the runway where he's got a chair and he's going to beat me. And then there's the riff, the part that the crowd sings along to that you can hum along to, like the da 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 da, and that's the riff. That's how, you know, strong start, character's established, it's exclusive to that character, and then there's the ride, which is the part of the song where the announcers can sort of, you know, expedite themselves over the story. Like, oh, you know, there's been this very solid rivalry between da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da. And I guess that's kind of been like the you know, the BGM construction community, the wrestling community, and sometimes I get my pecs out, and like the bodybuilding community also kind of goes for that. I'm co-hosting a Bara art panel in tomorrow night at 1 a.m. So.
Woo! Hell yeah. But yeah, communities come in all shapes and sizes. My good friend CG5, when he was expanding for the nerdcore, he was like, I'm gonna make meme music. I was like, oh, okay. How are you gonna do that? He's like, I can write a song in like 3 hours. I was like, all right, that makes sense. You're very fast in production. And so he went from 7,000 subscribers when I first met him and we first did our collab to now over 5 million subscribers. Definitely making a full-time off of this. And yeah, memes come in all shapes and sizes, just like music and all the communities surrounding every piece of music. And to touch in with our marketing, look at you up here. You look fantastic. Music videos. Who out there has ever made a music video? Okay, we got one there. Music videos, in my opinion, and a lot of other musicians' opinion, are one of the best marketing tools. When you make something that's audible, you're gonna wanna give your audience an experience that touches at least 2 senses. You're gonna wanna give them a video, because if you're sitting there on your phone, do you wanna just look at album artwork? Or would you wanna look at something that's moving, grabbing your attention? Whether it's just a visualizer with a lyric video, like Aviators has, or you go full on with VR videos like Whispers, or like me, you're using animation teams to make your videos, or you're doing some live action music videos like you in your performances.
Yeah.
Music videos can come in all shapes and sizes, and they are quintessential these days to getting your stuff played, especially on YouTube and TikTok. TikTok can make your songs. You get a little snippet of your song that's getting some traction, it's gonna lead to people looking it up on Spotify, and vice versa with YouTube. Tell me about your music video style, and like, how do you budget and your time management? Because you've been growing lately. You started all yourself, but tell me about how you're doing it now.
Yeah, I started it all, doing it all by myself, which was horrific. It was fun for a while, but when you reach a certain point, you need to start externalizing tasks. So I got a bunch of people now in my Discord who know how to use a VR camera. I've got a bunch of actors, you know, that are always there to play roles in the video. Budgeting right now, I've had an IRL shoot actually a couple of weeks ago. That's my next song. It's going to come out soon. That required for the first time a bit of budgeting on my end. Before that, it was all volunteering and staying up long hours, suffering.
Yeah.
But the end product is then always worth it.
Hell yes, and your style really has grown with your videos. It's so cool to see you. You just worked with my lead editor, Danny Gray, on one of your past music videos.
Yes.
Heck yes. There is a huge community, especially in the VR, who can help you film some beautiful stuff. And those sets, they're free. You just go into a beautiful world and start filming. Aviators, what is your music video process these days?
Oh, so that's changed a bit over the years, since I've always pretty much done it myself. I've worked with a couple animators before. Matrix Airfrost has done a couple of my typography videos, which have, you know, really fast-moving, animated video game characters with, you know, the text flying all over the place, and those look great. Normally I do a somewhat simpler version of that myself. Over the years, I've gotten pretty good at typography editing, so I'll try to have a captivating image that I will use as my main background, and sometimes that's going to be video game footage if it's a song about a video game. Sometimes that's going to be an art piece that I've had to commission because I didn't have anything pre-existing to use, and then I'll sort of do a bit of cinematic editing, add some motion to things, add a little smoke in the background. So there's always something moving to look at because music moves. Music is not still. So like you were saying, you don't want to look at a still piece of album art. So even when I just have a piece of art with lyrics in front of it, I try to add some movement. And that's all I really need, I think, in my videos.
Yeah, I love that. If you don't know how to do typography videos yourself, but you want to keep it simple like that, I've used Fiverr.com,
Yeah.
and there are a lot of typography video artists that you can commission who are really fast and very inexpensive. Tell me about your music video process.
So I don't really have like a lot of budget for live action music videos, but the thing I do try to impress on people is either, there's like programs like Shotcut that are very easy to use. And I think what I've started doing with some of my Patreon tracks is I have the album art, but then you just kind of have it blurred in the background and have it like thump to the music, or at least one of the backtracks, like the kick drum or something like that. So you can program things like that. But I think it's the thing that I try to push the most is just the live experience. So like after I do a con, what I like to do is I'll like try to edit down, the select like the best parts of it to get people interested in, going to my Patreon and paying for the full thing. And that way, because like I said, the best part is just the energy I try to exude, and the thing that the people have responded the best to are my live shows. Which, for example, the one at 8 p.m. in panel room 2.
Don't miss it.
Don't.
That's a good idea, putting the entire performance behind the Patreon and kind of highlighting your favorite parts and posting that publicly.
Yeah, exactly. Because again, sometimes it's that, there is that visual impressive element, like, the VR avatar, or, your typography work, or your animation. But my music doesn't necessarily jive with that 100%, but I do put the most effort into, my live performance, making sure that my live shows are entertaining. So that's kind of why those are what I tend to highlight.
Yeah, that's a solid idea.
Right.
When I first got started making music videos, I was a student in college, and I was like, okay, I think I need music videos, but I don't know where to go, and I want them to be animated. And so I looked around in the Five Nights at Freddy's animation community, and I found other students who were actually already fans of mine, who had done some fan-made music videos, and I reached out and I was like, hey, you've done all these projects. Would you like to make an official video of mine? I don't have a lot of budget, but I can give you royalties. And so that's just promising a percentage split if the song blows up. And it turns out the songs did blow up and do well. And so nowadays, my animators still continue to make royalties. So if you can't pay someone, at least a decent amount, try to pay them if you can. Give them royalties. And often enough, that will make someone work extra hard and really put all their passion into it because they have a sense of ownership to that piece of artwork, and it's going to be a lot more meaningful to everyone on board if they're getting a cut of the pie.
The animations are fantastic, by the way.
Thank you so much. They take a long time now.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. An average production takes us between like 6 months to 2 years per video.
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot. And the budget has had to increase. It's a whole process. But don't feel that you have to start off putting thousands of dollars into every video. Do what you can, whether you're going to keep it simple or if you want to do a little bit more, work with some students if you are also a student and promise some royalties. So, right place at right time. Some of us have kind of touched on this during our talk and the opportunities that we've found. During music school, one of my professors told me it's going to be incredibly hard to make it as a musician, but you're going to need to be able to pay attention to the opportunities that arise, because 80% of being a musician is hard work, dedication, and never giving up. You can't stop. You've always got to be working. The other 20% is a bit of luck, a little bit of magic, and that's finding yourself at the right place at the right time. Each of us here have had a magical moment, or multiple, that have led us further into our career and changed the direction that we're going. I want to start off with you, Whispers. Tell me about one of your right place, right times.
I think it's funny that you say that about your professor, because one of my professors gave a similar piece of advice that the most important thing you can do as a creative, doesn't matter where you are, is go for that after work beer with the other people. Like everything else, great, you're there, you're working, but the most important thing is the networking. Just go there for that drink afterwards and magic happens. And one situation where that probably led me to be here as a GOH was I met a fellow Austrian in VR chat, just by chance. We got talking, he's a kitty cat, and we realized we worked for the same company, for the same media production company. I'm like, what the fuck? There's another furry in my cool.
You never know.
Yeah, honestly, and he's
Furry in a technical job, perish the
and yeah, he's DJing and also travels around a lot. He's a bit older than me, and he has a lot of contacts everywhere. And I think he probably played a big role in me being here right now. So it's the random shit, but always go for the beer.
Yeah.
I love that. Aviators, what was one of your magical moments?
Oh, well, there's definitely many, and I think we all owe a great debt to luck, because I think creativity, you're always waiting on the muses, you're always waiting for the next inspiration to strike, and then you're waiting for the opportunity for someone to even hear that. So I would say my big lucky moment was early on. I was still learning how to write music at all. I was still just barely bought FL Studio in 2011. I had really badly cobbled together my first album, and I released it. I published it. It went on iTunes. I don't think Spotify existed yet. And when I published it, I realized that it was missing any sort of a community. There was no other musicians I knew online who were going to hear this, who were going to do anything with it. And my biggest thing that I was into at the time was I liked listening to other people's remixes. So I went around asking a couple YouTube artists, will you remix my Now I Know It Was Terrible song? And I reached out to The Living Tombstone, who at the time had, I think, 2,000 or 3,000 subscribers. His channel maybe only had two remixes on it at that time, very, very sort of new hobby for him as well. And he remixed my song on my first album that I had just attempted for no gain to his own, just as a fun hobby. And that's definitely opened me to his community, which was rapidly growing from that point. I'm sure a lot of us have crossed his path in the world of furry music and nerdcore as well. From there, he continued to remix, I think, 4 more of my songs, and introduced me to many of the musician friends that I still work with today.
Damn, that's magical. I love Yoa, Vanna, and Sam. They're the Living Tombstone.
Yeah.
Who out there knows of the Living Tombstone's work? Oh, everyone.
That's a lot.
That's incredible. Wow. Damn. Okay, Rhythm, what has been one of your favorite lucky moments?
I think my favorite lucky moment was when I was in college. I used to work for one of the school papers. And I was working late, it was after class or something, and I know the trains weren't going to come for another couple hours. I was like, oh, I got some work done, to get started my homework, whatever. And then some other people who worked for the paper come in, and they were looking for a place to shoot this mini-series they were working on called Dino Hunter MD. It was about a rogue anesthesiologist that fights dinosaurs. And I remember helping someone else find space to record a thing one day. And I was like, oh yeah, there's this janitor closet right here in the Student Union building. And then I eventually started to help them and watch them set up the shoot and everything. And they then discovered that I do music too. So that was my first big long-term project, was redoing some of the licensed songs they were using in the YouTube videos for we're gonna make a DVD out of this. And that kind of gave me my first little leg up into actually sitting down and writing music.
Hell yeah.
Wow.
Jumping on opportunities big and small can really take you into all different places that you would never expect. I think one of my favorite ones was I was sitting in my dorm room drawing, and my neighbor knocked on my door, and he goes, "Hey, there's a student shadowing me. He wants to do the music program, but I'm in the marketing. So I know you're in music. Can you talk to him about it?" I was like, "Oh yeah, sure." And in walks this little skinny kid, and he starts telling me about like the music that he makes, what he wants to do, and I was like, "Oh, yeah, do you make music?" And he's like, "Yeah, I make music about My Little Pony." I was like, "Oh, I know about My Little Pony. I didn't know there was musicians for it." He's like, "Yeah, I'm the wooden toaster." I was like, "Okay, let me look up your channel. Oh my God, you're getting millions of views. What the hell? This is actually really good music." And right there in the suggested was the Living Tombstone. And I was like, "Who's this? Let me click on this. What is this? Five Nights at Freddy's 1 song? What is this? Oh, this slaps. What's Five Nights at Freddy's? Let me watch Markiplier play this. Oh, I like this. This is a good game. You know what? I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna try my hand at electronic pop music because I wanted to make orchestra scores for movies at the time. I was like, you know what? Whatever. Let's try a pop song. And I wrote a song called Run Run, which has since then become one of my most popular songs. And that was my introduction into nerdcore, and just saying yes to getting to know this kid and being like, okay, I write songs. Let me try something new. Let me jump on this and see what happens. Changed the direction of my life, and now since then I've been a full-time nerdcore musician for almost 9 years. So jumping on opportunities is important. At the same time, it's okay to say no to some opportunities. Don't stretch yourself too thin. And it can give you a bit of FOMO to be like, okay, am I doing something wrong by not going and jumping on this? That's okay, it's part of the process. But your mental health is important, so make sure that that's still prioritized, but still try to do as much as you can. And borderline exhaust yourself, I'd say, almost as a musician.
Unfortunately, yeah.
It is true. I think music is one of those things where you have to want it. You have to want to write music, or else it's not going to come to you.
Yeah, and it becomes an obsession the more that you do it, and it can be the most fun thing, but at the same time, so goddamn stressful and agonizing. But at the end of the day, you're like, damn, I wrote some fire.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're into our advanced stuff. So, I mean, the first bullet point is like your intermediate, and then we're gonna go to like super advanced. Commissions. So, how many of you draw? Okay, how many of you know artists who draw? Like, have your friends? Great. Musicians need album artwork. First and foremost, when you publish a song, your distributor is going to ask, yo, where's your album artwork? You've got to have that, because stores won't accept you without that. So if you don't want to make your own album artwork, that's totally okay. Commission your friends or artists out there. We are in the most creative community out there. We are the furries. There is a plethora of artists that you can commission. I started commissioning one of my good friends who, years later, I'm still commissioning. I know the same said for you, right, Aviators?
Yeah, I've only used a handful of artists in this. The artist that I've used for this most recent album I'm releasing actually later this month called Half Wolf was done by a Blue Skittle who started doing art for me in 2012. So that's 11 years of the same album art cover artist. And I've also used Eterna Malasado, who is another community artist. And interestingly enough, I also used Twisted Hound recently, who's a local artist friend. And their following is quite large as an artist, so sometimes it goes both ways. And I had a lot of people listen to my song because of the artist who was commissioned for the cover art, not the other way around.
Sometimes the artwork for your work or the artist can really attract some views. I know that was the case with a lot of my early stuff. People who weren't furries being like, what is this album art? What's a furry? I like this. I guess I'm a furry now.
The natural progression.
Yeah, I've had so many people tell me, your art and your music made me into a furry. I'm like, you're welcome, yes.
The horror furries.
Yes. Whispers, tell us about your artwork process for commissioning your tracks.
I like to use renders Have been doing that for the past couple of, or like for the future songs, more or less. I've got a good friend who does great Blender renders, and it just gives it another level of quality. I did commission like artists, if you want to, render people are also artists in a way, but like traditional artwork. But the impossible task that I've set myself is I want to find a way for a normie to look at the song and listen to the song and be like, yeah, this is cool, this is something I understand. I don't want to make it too, like, we all love the furry shit, obviously, and it's cool and it works, but I'm trying to find a way to make it accessible for both sides, you know?
Yeah.
That is a challenge. Limiting your audience
Yeah.
is something you never want to do.
Yes, as much as it's important to make music for your communities, try to also make sure that it's not just for that community, that it can be broader than that.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rhythm, do you commission for your art?
I think, I commissioned for like my major albums. For example, the artist Hell Breakfast did the cover art for Bastard Mania and Hardcore Nerdcore Punk Rock, and it's kind of like if you've worked with someone long enough, you kind of get a vibe for how they feel. Both of those albums you can purchase at my show tonight, 8 p.m. in Panel Room 2. But I think for the most part, for something that I'm just going to use as a YouTube cover, I'll just, Photoshop is easy enough. There's lots of free fonts out there, and if you get very familiar with the program, you can use it to sort of adjust it and make it look things more interesting. So it's a good skill set to learn. Something like Photoshop or even Blender's getting more popular.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. The person who made my icon, this is actually a piece of fan art. And I fell in love with it, and I was like, yo, can I have that as my icon? And to this day, I still use it, and to this day, they still are the person that I love to go to for my album artwork. They are fantastic. And commissioning is going to go then beyond your artists who make your track artwork. You're going to commission people to make your VR music videos or your animated ones. Commissions come in all shapes and sizes, and with commissions come contracts. You need contracts. I know they can be scary. So I studied contract law at college. That shit was a bit scary, but it's important because it's just as simple as an agreement. You are paying someone to do something delivered by this date. That's it. There are contracts that you can find on Google that are just fill in the blank. There's standard contracts, whether they are stuff as like work for hire, which means you retain all the commercial rights. You can make money off of their artwork that you commission for them, or you can do a more commercial contract where they're getting a piece of the pie, whether it's royalties. There are all shapes and sizes, and it can be a bit daunting, but don't worry about it too much. Just make sure that they're in place. And with contracts comes contracting the right people. I think in everyone's music journey, you're gonna find the wrong people, unfortunately. Whether you just don't vibe with them, stuff just doesn't pan out, or they were just not good people to begin with. It happens. But just as importantly as finding the right people is be the right person. Do right by your team, whether it is your fellow collaborators or your artist. Be the person that you want to work with, because word spreads in the music community, just as it does in the furry community. You want to be a good standing member, because then people will want to work with you. Yeah. I think we've all worked with some not so great people, right? It's unfortunate truth.
It happens.
But I will say, these people all beside me are some of the best people, and I am honored to be doing this panel with y'all.
Well, as are we.
Hey.
Thank y'all, thank y'all.
That guy gets it.
And with that, we're gonna do our last slide here. The most important one, it is last. Pay your taxes, everybody. I know tax fraud is a funny meme, but we're gonna give you some good tips to avoid it. So Uncle Sam, or whatever you call your tax person in Austria.
Elizabeth. Fucking up.
Yeah, so they don't come after you. So as a musician, the gear that you are purchasing, the software that you're getting, the instrument libraries, the instruments that you're purchasing, they are write-offs. If you're using it to make something that you are trying to make money off of, or you are starting to make money off of, they become a write-off. Save those receipts. mark them down. Tell your tax person, whether you're going to just like a basic tax person or you've got a CPA, that is a professional tax person, which you should get once you start making some good money off of this. Your write-offs are extremely important. They will save you money. The more money that you spend on gear sometimes, the more money that you save on taxes, ironically.
That's true. This is true for artists too, by the way.
Yes,
Like
any
graphical art.
creative.
Yeah.
And guess what? As a furry, if you're a furry musician and your persona is part of your brand, your fursuit is a write-off.
And cons.
Cons are write-off. Hotel rooms are write-offs. Yeah. The government is being like, oh, you spent money? You don't have to pay that much, dude. We like that. We like that. Bookkeeping, yeah. Just save all your receipts. How many of us panelists have a tax person that's dedicated to us?
Not yet.
Occasionally.
Okay, it's important. Find a tax person. They're going to see your ass, especially someone who understands the furry and the musician side, because sometimes you're going to go to a tax person and they're like, what the hell's a furry?
That's what I need right now.
It can be hard, but it can be done. My tax person, I'm lucky enough, they are a professional cosplayer. They go to conventions all the time and they're like, oh, I know this world. I got you. I don't know furries that much, but I know cosplays. And I'm like, oh, we love that. Taxes are important. They are an ass. I just finished mine for the quarter, and they're super important. Are you paying taxes, Rhythm?
Yes, I'm not like big enough where I need to pay tax. I need a guy like you do. But one thing I do take care of, and programs like Square also help, because you do need to register with the state if you're selling at like an artist alley or a dealer's den of that thing. So even though like I play AnthroCon once a year, like you play a con once a year, it's still important that you set yourself a reminder to, record all of your taxes, everything you take note in, and just like a spreadsheet with all the states. So that way you can just go, all right, because even though you like don't go to Pennsylvania, for example, and you're not making any money from there, you still need to register. If you're like, no, I didn't make any money in this state, $0, I don't owe anything, so we can just move on here. So you still need to keep track of that.
And taxes can induce anxiety. It's okay. I have anxiety just thinking about them sometimes.
Right now.
Yeah, let's skip that slide.
We can do a whole panel on taxes. If you have any questions, again, next up we are doing our Q&A. So if you have any questions about what we just talked about or any other things that pertain to music production and any of the things that come with that, please feel free to speak up. Do we have any hands? Yes.
All right, so can you hear me?
Oh,
Okay.
sorry, I guess you're going to their camera, but yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
Project.
So one of the questions I came up with is, how do you find a way to keep working or actually finish a piece that you might have stalled out on?
Oh, I know that one. Sometimes it takes me years to write a piece because I will step away. I find myself at like dead spots where I'm like, this just isn't working. And I will step away and go on to other pieces. My best tip is always, if you're not feeling it, come back to it another time. And you may feel it then. What about y'all?
I have two responses to that, because on one hand, I have completely given up on a song, abandoned it, and then out of the blue come back to it 7 years later and just finished it in one go. And it came out great. So don't abandon things. I mean, you can abandon things, but don't delete them. Don't leave your ideas forever. Someday you might want them back. But also,
folders full of
folders, you keep everything. You want to keep your recordings, keep your bad takes, keep your good takes. You might want them someday, you never know. But also, I have found that it is not a waste of time working on mediocre music, because you are still honing your skills. You are still practicing mixing, you're still practicing mastering, you're learning more of what you don't like the sound of, and the whole time you're just working on your muscle memory to get this done faster the next time.
Yeah, you don't always have to best yourself.
Yeah, it's true. You can't.
I have to say I rarely throw away ideas or even like struggle with progressing, because I bend it early enough in a direction that I like. So in the process, if I realize, okay, nah, this isn't like, this line is not it, or this is not what I'm actually writing about, then I'll immediately try and change it. So I rarely go like into the long way and then realize, oh, this is ass.
Man, lucky. I wish I had that ability.
I can't even stick in a genre.
Yeah, I think it's, I mean, like I said, don't throw anything out because, again, sometimes you could take ideas to germinate. Like a riff I came up with 2 years ago could really fit with like a lyrical hook I came up with last week.
Yeah.
And I mean, sometimes what also helps is like translating it and redoing it. So if I'm like stuck on lyrics and I have like just a jumble of words in my notebook, sometimes just clearing it out and trying to organize them in the Word file helps me figure out, oh, okay, so maybe, maybe I'll change this line so it fits with the meter of the song better. So sometimes it's just like redoing it again so that you can progress a little bit further.
Yeah, I redo my songs a lot. My latest song that I'm debuting during my concert tomorrow at 3 p.m. main stage.
You have to move closer to the mic when you say that.
Yeah,
Tomorrow at 3 p.m. main stage.
But also you gotta say it a little bit lazier, like 3 p.m. at the stage tomorrow night.
I have rewritten that song 6 times over 3.5 years. I kept not feeling it, and I would just come back and be like, okay, yeah, no, this part needs to be completely redone. Just gut it, go back. Also, save project alternatives, because sometimes you'll do a lot of work and be like, damn it, I fucked it up. I gotta go back. It's okay to go back on an alternative.
Or what I like about Reaper is that it saves like different takes you do,
like
so that you can just go back to it and like or be off a song for a month or two, come back again and work on it. It's like, I don't like that take, but then I'll find one of the other takes I did that I still have saved because Reaper, I'm like, oh, okay, this one fits like much better. I kind of like the way the melody goes, the way I sung this part on this thing better. So sometimes I just end up redoing the vocals entirely. So FB, I guess.
And remember, saving, there's a 3-2-1 rule. 3 copies on 2 separate drives and at least 1 in the cloud. You will thank yourself 10, 20 years in the future when you're looking for a project or something crashes tomorrow and you lost a project. Don't worry, you got a backup. The 3-2-1 rule.
It's true.
Yes.
All right. Okay, it's still not working, so I'll just shout.
That's fine.
I was wondering, what is... I personally really struggle with mixing and mastering. So I guess what is the most essential thing you wish you could time travel back to and tell like your younger self, like, hey, do this, it'll save you so much time and it'll make things better. I guess just for my sake.
For me,
Yeah.
compression. When I first started my vocals, I'd be like, I think it sounds fine. Just maybe put a little reverb on the main vocal track. That's it. And nowadays I'm like, okay, it's got to go through my CO1B, and then I got to put it through a VC76 compressor. Then I put it through an SSLE channel compressor. Then I do a little bit of EQ, and then I compress it again through a Maserati VX. Compress your stuff. You can go crazy. It's gonna sound good. Put your vocals a little bit more forward than you're doing. If they're like the same line as your instruments, no, push them up. Push them up higher. I learned that at Atlantic Records. I interned there for a while in Hollywood, and that changed everything for me. Compression.
No, it is true though that like just talking to people with like audio engineering degrees goes a long way. Because I used to do all my own mastering. In the past 2 years, I've started working with a professional mastering engineer, and while they're a good friend of mine, it's mind-blowing having that educated perspective of just technical audio knowledge being applied to your stuff, so that you can then reflect on that next time you're working on your own content. And I think, asking for help from knowledgeable people is really the key to those difficult. That's what I would tell myself. I think. Yeah.
Do y'all have anything?
I have something. The best tip for mixing and mastering is don't mix and master.
Honestly, if you're writing, try not to mix and master
It's
yourself.
tough.
Let it off to someone. Unless you have a background in mixing and mastering, I studied that in school, so that's why I'm comfortable doing it. But still, I'll bring in another member of my team to give me a secondary opinion, or just hand it off to them and be like, all right, I don't know what I'm doing with this style. You have more experience with this one. Let's but you do it.
I'm gonna second that because I've done a lot of mixing and mastering on my own, and like just the process of going back and forth, like of different tests, you will go insane. Because there's something that like one person might hear, but you don't, and it's like, well, this needs to be louder, but like by how much? And like 1 decibel for you sounds different than 1 decibel for the other person you're talking to. So that communication is going to be added this. So it'll drive you insane. So which is why I think like maybe the parent test does, or the car test does help a little bit, because it is this party that is not going to overburden you with complex details, and instead just be like, all right, what do I need to get someone who is not obsessively pouring over every note of this song to think this sounds good?
And if you want to be crazy like some of us and mix your own stuff, compare it to some of your favorite soundtracks or songs that are in the same style.
Yeah.
What makes theirs sound different from yours? And how can you make yours sound more like theirs? But you will go a little bit crazy. It's okay. It's part of the process. Do we have any other questions?
Yeah, the floor is open for any question.
Yes, you got there. Yeah, sorry, the microphone is for a camera.
Yeah, it's really project.
Aviators, did you ever collab with Electrodub? Does that ring a bell?
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yes, I saw Electrodub at FWA earlier this year.
That's crazy.
Yes, I'm actually waiting for Electro to be available again. Who goes by Kujiro now? Actually.
Yeah.
Waiting for him to be available again so he can sing on hopefully one of my next projects. We worked together I think on 4 different songs now, but hopefully next few months we'll have another one.
That's crazy. He's one of my best friends. I lived with him for like a year or so.
Oh, cool. Yeah, he's a Florida man.
I learned a lot from him. He's really great.
Florida man.
Yeah, great artist. Yeah, goes by Kujiro now, but older stuff, and even this year's release under the name Electrodub. Frequent collaborator of mine, a really good friend.
Oh yeah. Any other questions? Very good. All right, so we're gonna open up now to the last part of this panel. All right, before I let y'all all do that, raise your hand if you're a singer. Be confident. I see you. Be confident. You're a singer. That's right. Raise your hand if you're an instrumentalist. Raise your hand if you're a music producer. I'll also be looking around right now. Be looking around at your people.
Yeah.
Who is in need of singers on their tracks? Who is in need of instrumentalists on their tracks? Who is in need of a mix engineer? And who is in need of a music producer?
It's almost as if we have a bunch of talented people like in a room together.
That's right. This is the beauty of community.
To be fair, I put an asterisk next to that. I know to fix my own stuff.
That's important.
That's the key. Yeah.
Now you got to share that knowledge. Fix other people's too. Yeah. All right. So now everybody, we can all talk together. This is the meet and greet part where get to know your fellow musicians, start networking, and start setting up some collaborations. But until the next time, this has been Furry Musicians from Hobby to Career with Whispers, Aviators, CK9C, and Rhythm Bastard. Thank you all. I appreciate you. And this shameless self-plug, Whispers has a concert today. Whispers, tell us about your concert.
In an hour, main stage. I have to go there now. I have to piss really badly.
Go.
And then go. Yes. See you. Come on main stage in an hour.
Main stage in an hour, buddy. And a Rhythm Bastard.
Yes, I'm Rhythm Bastard. My shameless plug is that I do have a show at 8 p.m. Feel free to take a flyer. And I stream on Twitch regularly, so you can watch me work, watch me game. And if you have any questions, you just want to chat, I'm always open. So.
Hell yeah. Do you want to plug yourself, Aviators?
Yes, I do. I have a new album coming out on the 29th of this month.
The 29th of this month?
That's right. In just 2 weeks. So go follow me on Spotify. I have a new album.
Aviators with an S. You'll know it's the right one because
Yeah.
he looks gorgeous in his picture. We got like 250,000 monthly listeners.
I think so. There's also a Fox picture on it now, so you'll recognize it.
Yes. And then my name is CK9C. I will be in main stage tomorrow at 3 p.m. debuting some new stuff. If you want spooky music that will frighten you, as well as emotional music that will make you sob, I've got it all, and you will do both. You'll be frightened and crying, I promise.
Be there.
Or your money back because you're not paying for it. All right, thank you, everybody. Also, shout out to the clowns for helping us with our AV tech.
Thank
They're
you.
no more.